Like pixels on a screen, these are the games of our lives. Welcome back for the triple stack. You know what? That sounded way better in my head. How
long have you been thinking that one up?
I'm gonna give it a solid 15 seconds.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah. This is the Games of Our Lives with Mike and Chris, and the voice you just heard, my name is Chris, so I mean, by deductive reasoning, the voice you just heard is Mike. How you doing?
I'm doing great, but this is YouTube. Let's not assume any particular level of inductive reasoning.
Yeah, well, I mean, granted, I cover an audience of 0.0000, pause for effect, 1% of YouTube, so maybe we have different demographics.
Maybe that's our niche. Our niche is insult comedy. Insult the people who actually watch this.
I'm sure that will work out real well for us. So, Michael, what have you been playing this week?
So I've been playing Hero Generations. I don't know. Have you heard of it?
No, but knowing you as I do, I'm going to take a guess. And you can tell me how right I am.
All right.
It is a procedurally generated roguelike with pixel graphics, and I'm guessing by the name of the title that it's very similar to Rogue Legacy and that there's genealogy involved.
Oh, so you have heard of it?
No, I haven't.
Well, you pretty much nailed it. I want to say accidentally. I kickstarted it, but I didn't realize I kickstarted it until I went to my Kickstarter account to check a different game. Have you ever accidentally kickstarted anything, Chris?
I've only kickstarted two things, and only one of them actually made it through, and that was the game Strafe.
Okay.
Strafe is this weird retro first-person shooter with modern, controls and physics and stuff, and looks really cool. But yeah, that's pretty much the only thing that I've kickstarted.
All right, so I imagine I'm not the only person who did this. I kickstarted Planetary Annihilation. That was the first video game I kickstarted. No, it was an okay game. It's still kind of disappointed. Kind of turned me off of kickstarting video games. But in the meantime, I kickstarted Hero Generations, and then I kickstarted the game. I'd have to look up the name, but it's by the creative team behind Final Fantasy Tactics, like the original Japanese one.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, Hero Generations is stummy for this before. It's procedurally generated roguelike. And I think I did Kickstarter right when I was in my Rogue Legacy kick.
You're always in some sort of roguelike kick, though. So
that's true.
So you were in a Rogue Legacy fugue state.
Yeah, and just they were like, oh, you select a mate, and then your traits pass on to your child, and you continue in the same world.
Oh, okay. So wait. So your character goes through the game until they hump somebody, and then the new character continues, or do you hump when you die? How does the mating work?
I will say there's some cool things about the game. It's a 2D top down where every move you make, so every time you move a space, that's 1 year in your life, and your character has a year counter, so you kind of know how many years you have left.
And is that based on genetics?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Oh, that's cool.
And then what happens is when you lose in combat, like damage is done in years. So if you lose a combat, you'll lose usually, I think, 5 years, or for big bosses, it'll be more than that.
Interesting.
It's a very interesting concept. I put about 3 to 4 hours into it. If you're into that sort of, it's a tactical. It's a tactical, more of a strategy game, really. There's really no skill to it.
Is it real-time, turn-based?
It's turn-based. Basically, you make a move, and then 1 year passes, and then you can decide whether or not to move to a space with an enemy, or explore a new space, or go back to a building you've already done. But my complaint, the combat is basically as you gain strength, either through actions you do or as you become of age. It's literally when you attack, you roll a dice, and then the enemy rolls a dice, and then you know the range of each, and whoever is higher wins. And that's basically it. So it's almost like the they took the combat system from Risk, basically.
Okay.
And so it's a fun game. The other problem I have with it, besides the combat is very random, is that as it works, as you do things in the world, you gain fame, and if you're once your fame reaches certain levels, you can unlock mates basically in the towns in the world, and a higher.
That sounds dubious.
It's yeah, for some reason it sounds weird when I'm trying to describe it to someone else, but it totally makes sense in game, right?
Yeah. So you go in, you peacock, you neg.
Oh, that's it. Yep. There's a mini game where you're playing as mystery. But pretty much what happens is, or what I found is, I'm doing well in the game, and then I get unlucky with one of the kids. They don't have a lot of fame. It's time for them to start looking for a mate. I can't get the primo tail that I deserve. And
that is your God-given right as a man.
Exactly. I just not enough fame. I did not kill enough goblins or owlbears or whatever.
So are you just constantly popping out sons, essentially?
Well, no, the gender is random.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good at least.
Oh yeah, yes. Don't worry. Of all the creepy shit in this game, it's not like
it could be worse.
Force someone to love you. But now what happens is, you can be doing really well, and then you have one bad turn, which sometimes is just bad luck. I mean, it's a completely random combat system. So you have a bad life, and then you can't get a good mate, and then it's almost like you're starting from scratch. Your next character is going to be lousy.
So are you working towards a goal? Are you working through like a whole family tree until you eventually just don't have children and then you have to start over?
No, there is an objective, and to be honest, I haven't found it, because every time I've left the initial map and sort of started a new thing, I've I don't know what's the term for, mated myself into a corner, I guess.
Okay, that's a new one. Yeah,
they give you like a generational counter, basically. So they'll be like, something happens in 15 generations, so you kind of know how many characters you have to work with. It's a creative game. I really enjoy the concept. It sort of it didn't really get me hooked. I believe it's I have to check. I think it's a $15 game.
That's not bad.
It's not. I definitely would recommend it at maybe a lower price point.
Mm.
But it's fun, and it's just one of those weird games. Yeah, I totally forgot about it. It's sort of like a nice surprise when you had to get through the Humble Bundle. I think some weird process. But no, it's I give it a tepid recommendation.
Ooh, only the most tepid.
No, that's not fair. I enjoy it. But how about you, Chris? What are you playing?
Well, I on a lark I bought it a long time ago, Xenonauts, and I know you've played this game, but it is essentially a downscaled but yet still more complex version of the most recent XCOM, Enemy Unknown. It's basically I've never played the original XCOM game, so I don't know if they had the base building element to them, but the combat definitely is inspired by like UFO defense and the original XCOM. So
you're fortunate that I'm level-headed here. I have a friend of mine who is a diehard fan of the original, and if you said to him Xenonauts was a continuation of the new XCOM, he might have an aneurysm.
Oh no! But that's the only reference that I have, because I've never played the original XCOMs.
So that's really interesting. So, well, first of all, just start. I'm curious what you think of Xenonauts, only knowing the new XCOM.
Well, there's definitely a lot more complexity in a lot of areas. You can build a base anywhere in the world. You have to worry about radar coverage, and you can actually control the aircraft that they're going to shoot stuff down, and the combat is incredibly difficult. And I'm talking like super like, so when you start up a new game, it asks you what difficulty you want to do, and it sort of goes through, there's easy, normal, veteran, and insane. So the way that normal was described is you're new to a strategy genre. I'm not. So I picked veteran and got wiped out in my first combat encounter, and well, okay, I guess that's not working out for me.
So were you surprised the first time you realized that since you were facing away from an alien, you couldn't see it?
Not well. It was compounded by, yes. It took me a couple of battles to realize that you could affect the direction you're facing. And then, but my first battle ever on veteran in Xenonauts, having only really played the new XCOM and some other strategy games, was a night battle where
fun.
you already have limited sight range, and the way that you control your characters,
I know how this ended,
and what all of the numbers mean are it's super, like, I wouldn't call it hidden because all the information is there, but it is not presented to you in any way that is friendly. Yes, like my soldiers have a med pack. How the fuck do I use the med pack?
Oh yeah, no. So if you're used
I know how to use it now. You gotta equip it and walk up to the dude and use it. But like it took me. I had to look it up.
Right. So this is maybe I think where a lot of people come down this game is sort of the old school versus new school, and that it's absolutely old school. There is a manual. It's in a PDF that's somewhere in the files that are installed.
Yes.
There's no real. I don't believe there's any sort of tutorial.
There are
help messages.
There are help messages, and that's it.
So if you play this game, if you get into this game thinking, oh well, I enjoyed XCOM Enemy Unknown, I will enjoy this game. You
will not, as I am about to say that I am not enjoying it.
Oh, okay. So I will say, as a fan of the original UFO Defense, I really enjoyed it. I thought it streamlined some stuff that, like, in the original UFO Defense, you need to build ammunition clips for every weapon you have.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and you need to store that, you need to build it, you need to do inventory. So just the idea that you don't have to do that is big. The idea you sort of have this infinite supply of the generic guns is nice.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot there that I think I could like if I persevered.
Did you go back and kind of restart on normal?
So I started 4 games on normal before I made it through an entire month without giving up.
Oh wow, okay. Yeah,
that is how hard I was taking these losses, because it is the game that every battle was a Pyrrhic victory.
Yeah, so you'll be doing stuff where just as soon as you start the game, you just bring in 12 soldiers, or not soldiers, you just bring in 20 soldiers, just as many soldiers you can fit. And then you look through and you pick the 3 that might actually be useful to you, and you dismiss the rest. Because the soldiers come with the randomly generated statistics.
And at least thankfully you don't have to pay for them.
No. I think
soldiers are free.
Yeah. So pretty much at every point you're just bringing in people, and you're just like running a cattle call. Like one of those like Project Runway shows where you call that accuracy, get the hell out of my sight.
Yeah, so I've abandoned normal and shamefully gone down to easy, and I've made it through. Easy is not a cakewalk. I mean, you could still get fucked on easy, like if you're not paying attention, but it will allow me to make my way through the game and learn all of the systems so that I'm prepared if I ever want to go back to a higher difficulty, which is what I think I needed. I think my biggest problem with the balance of the game is how much damage even the early alien weapons do. They can kill your dudes in one shot if they didn't start out with a very high HP stat. So it is not the game that you get into from coming directly from Enemy Unknown. But if Enemy Unknown maybe was too touchy-feely for you, or it was too fun, maybe you just try this.
Right. I mean, I highly recommend Xenonauts. It has problems. I wasn't a big fan of the I thought the air combat was kind of neat, but that was also a very high learning curve to understand.
Well, I mean, you just throw as many planes as you have at them. That's what I do.
I understand there's more to it, but I have trouble figuring it out.
Yeah, it is incredibly
an early game failure can honestly make you just angrily restart if you lose one of your interceptors early.
Oh man, or if you don't shoot down a ship in the first week, you could be straight fucked.
No, that's and then the end game. I think it kind of there's not a strong. Well, I mean that's especially coming off of Enemy Unknown.
Well, I mean,
it had a pretty cohesive story.
It did,
as those games go.
But the way that the sort of progression has been happening, at least in my easy game where I'm actually having progression, I don't know if that's if that was also in UFO Defense, but it very closely mirrors the plot progression of Enemy Unknown.
So for Enemy Unknown, they did not. The enemy did not progress in technology until you completed certain tasks. In UFO Defense and in, I believe, Xenonauts, although I've only played through once, so I'm not entirely sure. It's timed. So basically, you're always on the clock. So
that makes sense because you can run into the regenerating monsters in your first battle if you're not lucky. I've for now abandoned normal, so now that I'm playing on easy, it's a lot less frustrating for me, at least. So I think until I started my easy game, I was getting ready to say I'm never playing this game again. So we'll see.
You know what? Some of these, I think, newer games, I'll say. The example I was thinking was FTL. I kind of had to go to easy.
Oh, you can't start FTL on normal.
Right, and yeah, I think of it. I remember it sort of being. I think of it as a shame, right? Like, oh, can't even do normal. But I don't know. A lot of games now, I think they pride themselves in that sort of difficulty, and they give you that easy thing to get you off the ground. But
yeah, so if you've only played Enemy Unknown, definitely just start on easy. I'm just gonna say it right now.
That's true. But if you never played the original UFO Defense, and you do. I'm not sure how you would play it on a modern PC. I imagine there's a way.
I'm sure. I
believe there is a Steam version of all the XCOM games.
Yeah, and Good Old Games has the DOS box version probably.
Yeah, it's a great game. I mean, it's one of those games. I've been watching your Urcon Masters actually.
Oh,
it's one of those games that if you never played it and you see it now, you're like, wow, I had no idea they were making games this complex at the time.
Definitely. Moving on, what are you looking forward to, Mike?
So this Tuesday, I don't know if you've been tracking the game Convoy.
Never heard of it.
So if you see it and if you look it on Steam, it looks, speaking of FTL, it looks identical to FTL. I mean, but you're a convoy, so you're sort of an armored truck, and you're getting additional sort of escort vehicles and upgrading weapons. And even though it's pixel art, I would say the design is Mad Max, and you'll see that because they got a quote from Vlambeer that's Mad Max meets FTL, so you'll see that they'll plaster that quote everywhere in the store and the videos.
Okay.
But, I mean, it looks very appropriate. I love FTL.
Yeah. Well, speaking of big indie releases. As of today, when we're recording this Thursday, the 23rd of April, Crypt of the Necrodancer is 1.0. It's live. It is the full version now out on Steam.
And that's phenomenal.
That is a game that you and I both love. It is a rhythm as a dancer meets dungeon crawling roguelike. And so the Miami Sound Machine gets trapped in a dungeon. And MC Scat Cat has to fight his way through it. Now,
that sounds like a pretty good game too, actually.
If only we could get the license to MC Scat Cat. So it's grid based. There is a soundtrack that is pretty. The music's amazing, and a beat counter. And you can move whenever you want, but it is optimal to move on the beat, and there's a visual representation of that as well as the audio representation. And you're basically doing your dungeon crawly thing. You're getting upgraded loot. You're fighting enemies. You're fighting bosses. You're exploring, and it's really solidly executed. The music's amazing. The art is really good. So it's a very good game. I'm glad that I picked it up on early access. It's certainly been entertaining, the small portion that they've been showing off, and if you're really crazy, you can play it with a DDR pad.
Oh, that kind of sounds amazing.
Yeah, there's a special mode where you play with the DDR pad. They introduce a little bit of latency so that you have a chance to react. But yeah, if you've ever been to a convention where they're showing this, they've always got a pad out and people are playing it on a pad. So that's pretty cool. So we've been running a little long, but the two newsy bits that I wanted to mention are two fairly high-profile releases that have been in their respective betas for a while that are finally getting released. One of them, Kerbal Space Program, a game which I think everybody in the world probably already owns by now, that has been in beta since 2011.
Wow.
Is finally getting its 1.0 release next week. You have it, I'm sure, right?
Oh yeah, no.
Have you played it since they added contracts?
No,
so,
I haven't.
Yeah, it's a totally different game. If you haven't played it in a while, it's really been fleshed out in a really cool way. I mean, the original beta was just this sandbox, and now it's an actual game. So definitely check that out if you haven't, or go back to it if you haven't in a while.
Wonder if my Jedediah is still wandering the moon alone.
I don't know. I think the saves are compatible between versions, but I usually just restart.
Solitary sad existence.
Yeah, well, they can't die, unfortunately. So he is a tortured soul.
Oh man, there's a horrible subtext here.
Yeah.
That explains why he's smiling when he's crashing.
Well, it's because he's crazy. The other game I want to talk about was Heroes of the Storm, which is Blizzard's MOBA. Were you ever into the closed beta for that?
No, I wasn't.
I was. I played a couple of matches. My MOBA experience is limited, but you are the MOBA guru of the two of us. So are you at all
extremely depressing?
Yeah, I know. Are you at all? That's going to come out on June 2nd. And the open beta is going to be coming out sometime in May, I think. Are you at all interested in taking a look at that? It follows the League model rather than the Dota 2 model of having a rotating free cast of characters.
That's tough. I mean, I don't know how. I admittedly have not played Dota in a while. It's tough. You can really only be loyal to one if you want to be good at it.
I don't know. So I jumped into it, and it's fairly quick to pick up. You know what? It's always been described as a MOBA for the rest of us because it doesn't have a lot of the intricacies of a League or a Dota. There's no last hits. There's no shop. But
then how will I know that I'm better than everyone else?
Well, because you will still, if you kill more mobs in general and more heroes, then your level will end up being higher. But the thing, the other than the standard base objectives, as each map has its own unique twist. That is, I don't know how I feel about it, because it's a nice way to shake it up. Like, for instance, there is a pirate themed map where there's gold scattered around the map in various places that respawns. And when you have enough, you can go to a dude in the center who will just start firing cannons, and you pay him, and he'll just start firing cannons at your opponent's base. And the cost obviously goes up each time you use it, but it's this weird thing that, apart from, you're laning, you're pushing on all that stuff, and then periodically everybody has to stop what they're doing and move on to these map objectives, because if you just ignore them, you're screwed. So it's a really weird twist on it. I don't know how I feel about it because I'm not big on MOBAs in general, but I know a lot of people who are interested in it that might check it out with. Well, I think that's going to do it for us this week. When you're listening to this, obviously it's Monday, so there will be a new episode of the Urquan Masters up on the site. I think this one is a lot of me going around the solar system and mining some stuffs. So super exciting.
Save some stuff for the audience here. Yeah. Don't give it all away.
Yeah, and I've got some one-offs planned for the future, so it's not just going to be these two things over and over again. But for Mike, I'm Chris. Thank you for listening to The Game of Our Lives, Episode 3, The Triple Stack.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button to see more videos. If you like the videos, please share them with your friends. If you got feedback for me, go ahead and leave it in the comments below. You could follow me on Twitter @fracktruck_games for the latest updates and notifications when new videos go up. And thus, dear viewer, I bid you adieu. Good night.
Thank you, Chris. Except for that last part.
It was a callback. It was necessary.
No, that's true. It's called the denouement.